It is time for us to be joined by our friends at the Lakeville Journal and Millerton News. It's This Week in the Lakeville Journal. I know we have Cynthia Hothwinger on the line. Good morning, Cynthia.
Good morning.
Janet, are you there?
Yes.
All right. Yeah, whenever I do this, I always think of guests, sign in, please. What's my line?
Mystery guest, right?
What's my line? I used to watch that all
Who's
the
the
time.
host?
We gave it away, though. What's our line?
I know. What's our line? I forget who the host was.
That's terrible.
But it was I used to watch.
Was there Jack somebody?
I
got to find out.
I used to watch it with my grandmother all the time. All right, we're going to go right to the front page of the Lakeville Journal, and something that hit me today, even though we reported this the day it happened, I'm surprised more bank robberies haven't been happening because people can walk into a bank nowadays and have a mask on, and it appears perfectly normal. And at the Salisbury Bank and Trust, it wasn't perfectly normal this week.
My daughter and I say that every time we mask up before we go into a bank. We just feel like, and it used to be that, at the height of COVID, you would have to walk into the lobby, take your mask down so that the camera could identify you, and then they would let you in. But we're in that funny halfway place where people are still wearing masks. Some people are, some people aren't. But the security around the mask wearing is not as tight. And so we have in this issue a photo of from the security camera of somebody that they believe, assume that they know, robbed Salisbury Bank and Trust's Sharon branch, and has just a standard, COVID mask on and some sunglasses, looking really like kind of anybody could look if they're walking in. We couldn't quite figure out why he had a white towel around his neck, but, there you go. But I don't know if, the question that people ask me every day now is, have they caught the robber?
No.
And I haven't heard anything from the state police. I don't know if you've heard anything.
I've checked, and no, they haven't. They have some leads because it appears they did case the bank in Falls Village. It appears that way, but still, they walked into the woods and then got into another car and got away. It's one of those things, though, that is an offshoot really of COVID-19, which makes it just a little bit easier to get into a bank unnoticed if you want to do something.
Right, and there have been, as you know, certainly a history of small bank thefts around here. They don't generally get it. The banks don't really like to say how much money they get, but they don't generally get huge, enormous amounts. But there have been special cases. I think there was a story about a gentleman who had a sick child and was robbing some area banks. That was very sad. And then we had the story in 2017 of the two young people who had been traveling up and down the East Coast and broke into the National Iron Bank in Falls Village and tried to make their getaway in a red Fiat Abarth, which is very noticeable. And Salisbury's resident state trooper, Christopher Sorrell, really using his head, said, I think they're going to come this way. And he just parked himself on the side of the road and was able to intercept them. But then we have a little mention of a theft in, which I'm sure you remember from the Sharon Plaza in 1997, where also the robber had walked out and walked away. I don't think he actually got into a getaway vehicle, as far as we know. But it took 2 years to track him down, and they found him incarcerated in Indiana and had to extradite him.
All right. Well, hopefully, because now everybody has a camera outside their store, so hopefully between the cameras and the Sharon Shopping Center and stuff like that, they're piecing together things slowly, and they'll be able to get the robber.
Right, and we'll hope that at the heart of this is not a heartbreaking, tragic story of somebody who's really been devastated by COVID, because this has been a hard time for people. But don't rob a bank.
They're really scary for the tellers and the people in that bank, though, I'm sure.
Absolutely. It's an experience that you're going to carry with you the rest of your life as long as you work at a bank or any place where there's money like that.
And we don't have any details of whether there was a weapon or what the transaction was. I don't know if you've heard anything.
No, but, a condition like that for people working at the rural banks, there doesn't need to be a weapon for you to be scared out of your mind and affected after that. It just, it's just one of those things.
It's too easy.
And our gas stations, too. I always worry about the gas station.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to a couple of other stories. First of all, I want to go to the story by Lila Hawken, a life saved by caring volunteers, neighbors, and good fortune for Richard Schlesinger.
And this is a story that probably gets played out to some degree around our area every year, which is that somebody has a short death experience or a near-death experience, and their life is saved by the caring volunteers who are often their neighbors. And there's also a stranger, a Good Samaritan from Maryland, involved in the story. But John Gunther and Richard Schlesinger very generously shared their story with Leela. And, of course, Richard Schlesinger is a CBS News correspondent, so he can really tell a story, but was walking down the road in Cornwall, as he often does, and his heart stopped. And somebody was driving by. They happened to be from Maryland and were looking for the beach. The woman happened to know CPR. The ambulance just happened to be quite right nearby, and so a wonderful life was saved. Loving partner of John Gunther, loving owner of 2 dogs, very active in the community, a big supporter of the Little Guild. And Leela beautifully wrote up the story as told to her by John and Richard, and it's an extraordinary story, but it's also a very ordinary story in that this is what our volunteers do, and we are so fortunate. And a reminder that we are coming up on the Salisbury Volunteer Ambulance 50th anniversary. 1970 doesn't seem like half a century ago, but it is. The celebration of that coming up in Salisbury, August 21st. The history show put together by Palm Shillingford at the Salisbury Association, and we have some great photos that we are scanning today and tomorrow that we hope to have in this week's issue as well.
And a great reminder of the fact that if we don't have enough housing, sooner or later we're not going to have local people running an ambulance squad. It will be a professional ambulance squad. And stories like this will become few and far between. And that's how important it all ties together with housing and our ambulance service and our fire department services. And this just really, that's the first thing I thought about. Thank God. Because we have people that they're part of the community and they're part of the services and they're out there. So that's a great story. Future of Alzheimer's research.
Scott Small lives in Millerton and is one of the world's leading researchers on Alzheimer's disease and is making breakthroughs, but is also one of the most compassionate people when talking about Alzheimer's disease and doesn't really see patients but has seen some. And he spoke at Noble Horizons, I want to say 5 or 6 years ago. And Carolyn Birchfield, who does community programming at Noble, really has tracked him down and kind of really insisted that he come and speak. And when he does, you could expect him to be cold and clinical, and he's not. It breaks your heart and it warms your heart how much he cares and what he's seen and how much he wants to help solve this, really a scourge of our world. So he's going to be speaking August 17th on Zoom through Noble, and gosh, if this is not a disease that doesn't touch all of our lives, and I just feel that everybody should watch, and you will learn something about the theories on how this impacts our brains and ways that they're hoping to maybe save people's memories and their lives.
And I want to move to page A2 because this is what local journalism is all about. Mm-hmm. The regional page has a story on the Marvelwood Eco Team, the art scholarship for $40,000 that's handed out at Housatonic Valley Regional High School, and also a submission for a student film competition. These are stories that you all would not know about if it wasn't for local journalism.
Right, and we often put our scholarships here, so if you're interested as a student in applying for scholarships as we begin to move into the school year, this is where the scholarship applications are listed, this is where the awards are listed. It used to be that this page was largely the police blotter. There's been, now that there's been some shifts in the way that the police do their business, a lot of the blotter is now at Troop L. It would be nice to say there's no crime, but we get fewer listings. But we are very happy to replace them with wedding announcements and birth announcements and, of course, scholarships.
All right, let's go on to the story out of Falls Village about a new restaurant now open, as Falls Village is starting to boom.
Yes, down the street here. And Hungarian immigrants, there's a small group of Hungarian immigrants, and they're doing incredible work in our town in renovating buildings and starting businesses. And it's really great to see Adam Sarosi and his wife Sabrina Safar. And, of course, there's the new gas station, too, which is being run by immigrants. We're very fortunate here in the people that are coming to enhance our towns. And a beautiful, big, ambitious space, really nicely renovated. A little problem with the septic. The town kind of came together and fixed that pretty quickly. And very excited to have them here, and you can order online and come pick up, or you can come hang out.
All right, couple of stories about fiber optic possibility in Sharon, and I love the picture that they talk about the Salisbury Historic District approving the Salisbury Congregational Church's application for solar panels on the roof.
It's a nice big roof, and right out there with very few trees shading it, and so they've approved. Bravo to the town for approving solar panel plan for the Congregational Church, which, of course, is the town's church. And 2 stories from Sharon, one about, we'll be seeing this in all of our towns. I believe we have one from Cornwall next week. All these towns are getting their COVID funds. How are they going to spend them? And fiber optic, because there still are a lot of people in our area that don't have high-speed internet. and fiber optic that towns own and put up themselves could be an option.
Something we reported about, but I'm glad you've got a nice story on it, and that is what they're doing in Sharon, which not enough towns are doing. They've formed an ad hoc committee to find out and ask people how that $400,000 in that fund from COVID-19 would be spent. I just think that is just a fantastic idea.
Absolutely.
You know, it's I don't know of any other town in our area that has done it. To be quite honest with you.
We're almost getting started. I'm not sure that they're doing it the same way, but yeah, Sharon, kudos to them.
Yeah, it's real good. All right, now let's talk about us getting back to normal. I want to go to the Kent sale days. We've got Salisbury sale days coming up, but you've got a story on page A5 about the Kent sales days.
There's a ton coming up this weekend. And much of it has not been really announced because everybody's been a little nervous about it. They don't want to be overrun by people, but of course they do want you to come. The Kent Sidewalk Sales has been the most heavily promoted. A ton of fun in Kent where lots of stores are having sidewalk sales. The book sale is going, the St. Andrew's tag sale. Any tag sales you go to this year are going to have 2 years' worth of stuff. They're going to be great. So do look at the listing here of some of the things that are going on. And then we've got the craft fair on the green very quietly coming up in Sharon. Of course, there's not going to be the annual book sale and book signing because the library is being renovated, but the groundbreaking is on the 7th at 11 a.m.
And also the Sharon Historical Society has teamed with the festival on the green, the Arts and Crafts Festival, and they are doing an event for children and adults on the outside. So we are really... it's nice that I can look at my community calendar of coming events and read off a whole list of events. We've got the Ulster County Fair, which started this week in New Paltz, and all the Dutchess County Fair, the Goshen Fair, they're all coming up, and it's kind of nice. And I just hope it can. I hope we can keep the momentum going.
Right, because we do have a story coming up for next week on a rise in COVID cases in the area, which is heartbreaking.
And, of course, tonight, the Sharon Hospital has their live streaming event with Mark Herco talking tonight as well. I want to mention the picture of a century and a quarter of the Lakeville Journal. That's right opposite your opinion page.
I'm going to let Janet talk about that, our historian.
Oh, not really. But anyway, it seems like I've been around long enough to be a memory historian, but no. So yeah, this is a big landmark for the Lakeville Journal. It was started in 1897, and we actually have printed a visual of the first front page, which was August 14th, 1897, and it's fascinating to see what was covered in that edition. A lot of international news. Life was very different. This was the way to get news to people in rural areas that they had no other way of knowing what was going on. So it's just fascinating to see how, while we've been around for 125 years, things have certainly changed dramatically over the course of that time, and this company has made changes according to what our communities are like and what they need. So do take a look at that printing of the first page. Cynthia wrote a fascinating little description of how we count our editions, so you can tell where we're at any time by just looking at our volume and number on the front page. We let people know how long we've been around and where we are in the year. And you can also go online to tricornernews.com and see an interactive version of that front page.
And what's interesting about that, while you are celebrating a century and a quarter, we feel proud that we're going to be celebrating our 35th anniversary of the AM station coming December 23rd.
That's a big deal. That is not a simple thing to do in radio, and that is a long time. That's a long time, especially when you're doing so much of it on your own manpower and woman power, Jill. It's just great that you're here and going forward. And 35 years, congratulations.
I guess we could say 3 decades and a half, but it still sounds paltry.
What's great?
Right.
This all leads to your editorial about local journalism, 125 years.
Right, and so, we have a lot of new readers, and we want them to know what our past history is and what we're looking at in the future. So this is what we're looking at in the editorial this week, what the events were that brought us here from 1897. The beginning with Carl Card as the first editor and publisher, and moving forward to picking up the Millerton News in 1972, 1998, started our website, and that was back when I used to type in stories into the website.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's like, really? That's what I had to do anyway. It's been great to see how things can move forward and change, and yet in many ways stay the same in our community. So we're looking to the future. We describe why we, and we have done this before, why we are in the process of applying for nonprofit, to become a nonprofit 501c3, and we have sent that application into the IRS. So now it's a waiting game. We will see what comes back.
You know, it took, when we did it, it took me, I got it back in 45 days, but I was told by my lawyer that is really, for some reason, exceptional. You'll know within 90 days, and for people that don't understand, out here, if you want to have local media, it is all going to be nonprofit, because that's just the model that will work in the environment that we're in right now. So good luck with that and getting back that to that successful matter where you'll become a nonprofit. You've got your viewpoint page and the letters to the editor, and Too Noisy Around the Hospital All Summer, which Mark Herco, I'm sure, will just talk about tonight, but he also talked about it earlier this week.
That's right. This is a letter from a neighbor of Sharon Hospital, Andrea Wyant, who and it's been discussed because of the neighbors' complaints about the noise, and it's the air conditioning unit. It's loud, and they have put noise breaks around it now. But I'm sure Mark Herco will talk about it. I'm sure Andrea Wyant will be there, but she wanted to let our readers know what it's meant for her this summer and what she thinks the hospital should do. And we also have an interesting piece by Matt Gordon on a trillion trees legislation, which he's written about before, more than a year ago. And it is amazing how this legislation can just, roll on, and it's not yet become law. So anyway, he talks about that and the importance of it. And Peter Riva talks about COVID-19 and where we're at right now.
All right, and we can move on to Compass. The story that got me, the art of brewing beer at NRM, but then I said, Norman Rockwell, well, there's Karen Allen. But it's a great story about how that all combines together, and once again, how things progress and how people survive and businesses survive in our area.
I kind of like that photo, too, because it has nothing to do with the beer, but Karen Allen looks so friendly and charming, and you feel like, wow, she'd be the best bartender ever. She was so fun looking. But they're doing, of course, as anybody knows who's been to a grocery store or a liquor store recently, beer labels are beautiful right now. And, of course, Norman Rockwell Museum up in Stockbridge, Massachusetts, is doing its third exhibition of beer label illustrations, which is super fun. And, of course, they're going to do a tasting event. But they're also doing something very special on August 25th, which is a screening of Raiders of the Lost Ark. And Karen Allen, who lives up here and was a star of that wonderful film, Raiders of the Lost Ark, the first, she will be a guest speaker.
But it shows that when you take a look at the Compass also, you must feel good, Cynthia, looking at the Compass, because as our area opens up, you now see the advertisements for everything that's starting to go on and open up in our area.
Oh, yeah, there's a ton going on. And, of course, Sharon Playhouse has been extraordinary this summer in just figuring out different ways to keep things going. People are loving the shows on the main stage, and we have a story coming up on all sorts of technology advances that they made in Frozen, which was shown this weekend. And, nice to put all of that energy toward the children's productions. So definitely a ton going on. And then up in Massachusetts, the New Marlborough Meeting House had a really interesting talk by Garrison Keillor a couple years ago that really put a rift through the center of the town. But they're having something that I think will be less controversial this year, which is Bill McKibben and his wife, Susan Halpern, will be talking about the environment. That's August 14th at 4:30 p.m. And of course, you're right near the famous old the Old Inn on the Green in New Marlborough, one of the most famous restaurants in our area.
Well, you can see by just walking around our area and seeing more and more people in town, and then you take a look at the paper and you see all the events that are coming up, that this area now really is survived and is trying its darndest to come out of the pandemic.
It's very exciting. We salute you all.
All right, that's some of the stories you'll find in the Lakeville Journal and Millerton News, tricornernews.com on the web. Of course, home delivery, and you can pick it up throughout the tri-state region. Guys, we'll speak to you next week.
Thank you so much.
Have a good week.
Once again, more information at tricornernews.com on the web.